Good evening, folks, and welcome back to another episode of South of the Cheddar Curtain. As always, it's your boy Devin Hine. Again, sitting across the time zone Skype cam from the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Lucas Mueller. Want to start the folks, Luke?
Hello, folks.
Guys, we are back, and as usual, when Matt LaFleur's Packers play Sean McVay's Rams, we take care of business, and we did it yet again going into SoFi this past Sunday. Packers picking up a 24-19 win over, do we call it a rivalry? Do we call it history because the coaching tree? Because I feel like we've always had their number.
We have, at least in recent times, and we add to that, not only do we have Sean McVay and Matt LaFleur being his pupil once upon a time, right? But we have the little LaFleur involved now as well.
That's right. He's over there now. Yeah, good point.
Which it's always nice to see that Matt can kind of continue the dominance over the mentor. That's nice to see. And I don't know if you saw a little clip from LaFleur talking about how his brother's probably the more liked of the two in the family.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, so he's like, Mike's probably a little easier to get along with, but, my parents live here in Green Bay, and I bought their house, so that should count for something. That's a good one.
I think we call it a little bit of bribery, but I mean, Matt's just keeping it honest like he always does.
Absolutely, and good to know that the entire LaFleur family is residing in the beautiful town of Green Bay.
Right? I mean, I think they're choosing to live by the more successful of the two sons, understandably so. One of them is going to be having a Super Bowl ring in the near future, hopefully.
Yeah, one of them's stable, and one of them's been on multiple teams in multiple years, so which one are you going to live by?
It's decisions, but when they're like that, they're not too bad.
No.
All right, so I think and I know.
Let's do it.
I know. That last week I made you my sole pallbearer, Narv Dog. And I know that in a game that has felt like a lot of the games this season, right, there's just been something a little off. The two games that Malik Willis played feel completely separate, but the other two games Jordan Love has played, things haven't looked great, right? We haven't felt like ourselves. And this game was starting to feel like that as well. We're down, Luke, 17, was it 17-10?
It was 13-7 at halftime.
13-7 at halftime.
Yeah.
13-7 at halftime. No, it couldn't have been.
13-10.
13-10. I was going to say, because my whole point
13-10.
is talking about Narvison's kick. Thank you, sir. Thank you. 13-10. So this is right after Jordan Love throws his awful, like the worst interception I've seen a Packer quarterback throw ever. Awful interception.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Which we'll get to. We get the ball with under a minute to go. Down 13-7 to a team that has far less talent, especially left on the field with all their injuries.
Mm-hmm.
Just felt like a game that we are shooting ourselves in the foot. We're able to drive down into Rams territory. We have a weird, behind the line of scrimmage, lateral toss, whatever, Jaden Reed, that goes for negative 10 yards.
Correct.
So we're not going to punch it in for a touchdown, unfortunately. So what does that mean, Lucas? Who has to trot onto the field?
Good old Narv Dog.
Good old Narv Dog. And 46 yards feels like, again, any other kicker, this should be easy as pie. But Narv Dog, not so much.
Not so much.
Right in his sweet spot of not sweet at all. And somehow he pulled through. And it was then, what, you said, 13-10 at halftime?
13-10 at halftime.
And I know it was only 3 points, but I'm pretty sure I texted you guys in the group, all right, we got it. Narv Dog hits that kick,
we're going to be all right.
We're going to be just fine. And that's exactly what happened. So thank you, Narv Dog, for doing your job. I think that was his only kick. Did he kick in the second half?
That was his only kick.
100%, baby. I'll take it.
First week, he has not missed a kick.
Hey.
Good for him. That's progress. I think that I know who my next jersey purchase is going to be. So for any newer listeners that have not been on my jersey voyage, I don't buy jerseys quite as cavalierly as some of us do, Devin specifically. I don't mean that in a bad way.
Cavalieri, please explain this to me in this instance.
Yeah, well, you buy jerseys much more frequently than I do.
Fair, that is true.
Right? So, growing up, I had a Favre jersey. I had multiple as a kid growing up, right, as you kind of size out of them. And then I transitioned to a Rodgers jersey. And that's all I had until I was, 27, 28, were those two jerseys. And then a very kind podcast co-host got me a Robert Tonyan jersey, which was great.
Look at that.
And that was it. Those are the only three players that I've ever had a real jersey from. I bought a couple from Goodwill. I think I have like a knockoff of on green somewhere in the closet that probably doesn't fit, that kind of thing. But those are really my two. So it's a big deal when I kind of hitch my horse to a wagon. You know what I mean? I'm gonna ride or die with that person for probably a decade, right? And the obvious choice is Jordan Love. But that felt a little too easy at this point in time, right?
A little too mainstream for you. Hey, bud.
Little too mainstream, especially at this point. Although I do love some J Love.
Who doesn't?
But I think the answer is obvious. The number doesn't change, but the name on the back of the jersey does.
Oh, here we go.
I think we got to get a little crafty with him, man. Tucker Kraft is awesome. I love Tucker Kraft. And coming out of college, right, we all thought Musgrave was going to be better. This is like our fourth week in a row talking about Tucker Kraft, and that's okay. Hopefully talk about him every single week for being awesome. But I love that dude. I love his mentality. I love that he's playing through injuries, right? Like it's no big deal. Coming, crushing people. Biggest game of his career.
Did you see him mic'd up? Did you catch that yet?
No.
Just my favorite part of it, he was like, one of his earlier catches, he gets tackled by a DB, and he goes to Ben Simpson's sideline, and he's like, I did not just get tackled by a DB. Like, I did not let that just happen. Like, just completely distraught.
I love it. And he has, I think at a press conference, had a quote, something about, like, my goal every single time is to make the first guy miss. Like, a DB won't bring me down. It's going to happen sometimes, but that's the goal. I'm like, love it. He was just on A.J. Dillon's podcast over this last week, I believe. I don't know if he caught that. I didn't even know A.J. Dillon had a podcast, but Tucker Kraft was on it, so I listened to it.
Probably just talking about, farming and whatnot and Door County, and that's probably
right. Real farming versus farming simulator that A.J. Dillon loves. They did talk about the differences in the Dakotas, so that was interesting. But the big thing that came out of it that was entertaining as far as Tucker is concerned is some of the stuff he says, his trash talk to the opponents, where kind of one of his recent things has been that he tells them he will burn down their childhood home. Like that's what he's out there telling TVs.
That's a lot.
That's a little psychotic, but the right kind of psychotic for a tight end. So Tucker Kraft, I think I'm going to have to get your jersey. Maybe it's just going to go on the Christmas list, But I think I need a Tucker Kraft jersey, especially after this performance. He's the tight end that was promised at this point, right? We thought it was Luke. Not the case.
No, the force is not strong with Luke. The force is definitely strong with Tucker Kraft, man.
Absolutely.
Hey, but speaking about psychotic, do you remember what he said last year? Like in a couple of those interviews where he was talking about like, I want to feel the man's beneath me, like his body crumble as I impose my will and take his life. I mean, it wasn't that last part, but
it was pretty dark.
It was like when my cross country coach said that we were going for the jugular, like the day of conference. Like, it's really intense and it's borderline inappropriate, but I'm definitely cool with it.
And
getting a little close there.
100%. And they in the locker room after the game, Tucker Kraft, obviously X and Tucker got the 2 game balls. And Tucker Kraft's, they kind of like wanted him to do a little speech. And he just said, very, very simply, I play the way I do because I love you guys.
Oh, my gosh.
That's it, right?
See, I'm so happy when we keep our pre-show talk short because like there's all these little tidbits that the reaction would be ruined.
Correct.
Thank you for that little nugget. That was beautiful, Lucas.
You're welcome. And also, I saw a phenomenal nickname for him, right? There's a million you can do with his, but especially this one I think really fits his play type, his play style, right? Without a doubt, the best one I saw was Kraft YAC and Cheese. That's
like
really
that.
good.
I like
that's
that.
really good because that's what he is. He's not a seam stretcher, but he's gonna run you over.
Okay, if we're just gonna go with like the running over, keep it simple. This is Devin original. I haven't seen this elsewhere. Trucker Kraft.
That's not bad.
That's
not bad.
That's what he does. But he also has a little bit of chicken shamey, Like
He does.
So we'll work on it. Like
we'll brainstorm it. We'll workshop that a little bit.
All right. So I think Romeo Dobbs is going to come back into this offense, and things are never going to be the same in the best way.
Okay.
So for those of you who missed it, which I don't know how any of you that listen to the show would have missed it, but I mean, hey, we get random people all the time, right? I guess anyone who's going to be a new Packers fan comes to our show. I don't know.
Shout out Belgium. The listener in Belgium.
How you doing? Oh, by the way, a little plug here. Thank you, Lucas. Lucas and I have been meaning to replug the email address for anyone, fans of the show, who have questions or, comments or thoughts, whatever. We love our fan interaction. So, Lucas, remind our fine folks at home, what is the email address?
It is very simply southofthecheddarcurtain@gmail.com.
Thank you, folks. All right, now back to our regularly scheduled programming. Romeo Doubs did not show up for practice Thursday or Friday. Apparently, reports are that he did not like the game plan. This game plan was going to be a lot of Jaden Reed, a lot of Tucker Kraft. Well, we both know that those are two good recipes for success, and whatever the game plan specifically entailed was not to Romeo Doubs' liking. We're guessing probably not a lot of involvement for him, which is a little unfortunate. I mean, I can see that'd be hurtful considering that Christian Watson was out of the game, but he was so hurt that he just didn't show up to practice. And apparently him and Matt LaFleur have had positive conversations since then. We're expecting that Romeo Doubs should be back at practice on Monday. But I think with the fact that Christian Watson is still most likely out this week and the absolute stinky poo-poo of a season that Dontavian Wicks is having, you have to be careful about what message you're sending, right? When a guy, I'm trying to say this gently and carefully. No matter what the reason was, he was still absent from work for 2 days.
And it was like no call, no show.
And it was no call, no show. So
which, by the way, just for anybody that does not live south of the Cheddar Curtain, it's cause for termination by the fine state of Illinois for 3 no call, no shows in a row.
Bro, I'm afraid if it's like 1, I'd be gone. Like, that's how I think of it. When you hear about
I'm saying the Illinois state law is 3.
Okay, like it has to be?
Yep.
Yeah. So whatever was going on with Romeo, right? Like, there's different reports. Like, there's been reports that he's had anxiety attacks in the past, which are no joke, right? So I'm showing nothing but love for Romeo. But when you don't, show up to your job 2 days in a row and it's no call, no show, we have to be careful about, bringing him back along. Right? I think it was good that we suspended him for the game.
Mm-hmm. Like Jair last year.
That could have been a hard message, right? If you just bring him right back in, right? Like that other guy's like, okay, well, can I kind of test those waters? Suspending him was the right move for this game. I think against the Cardinals this week, maybe he doesn't get a lot of snaps in the first quarter, but it's time to let Romeo cook. I feel like we need to be hitting him more like we did against Dallas, right? Where he showed when he's given the opportunity on those deep ends, because we can get a little bit of yak action. Romeo can hurt you. I mean, he is the red zone god, but so often I think we're looking for guys like Wicks and Reed underneath.
Yeah.
Understandably so, but especially with Dontavian Wicks now being, honestly, he's leading Paul-Bear at this point. Let Romeo cook. See what he can do. So maybe he gets more targets in Arizona, he gets hot, and the offense can be unlocked. Right?
Yeah, I think, like you said, you really have to be careful at this point, because if you're Malik Heath or Bo Melton, probably more Malik Heath, right? More of a direct backup there. If you're Malik Heath, Romeo just vanishes for 2 days, right?
Yeah.
Comes back and immediately, starts against Arizona. And you're like, dude, I've been busting my butt for a couple of years now. I have been at every practice. I'm early to every meeting, just for instance, right?
The blue collar, lunch pail, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. I block my butt off every single play, right? I know I'm not going to get the ball. I'm not in a game plan, but I go out there and give it my all every play, right? And if you see Romeo waltz right back in and get, 10 targets this week, how exactly are you feeling? So that's kind of, you really have to take the pulse of that wide receiver room, I think, and of the team as a whole to really understand what direction to go if you're Matt LaFleur, because it could be a slippery slope at this point, right? If the team kind of rallies behind Romeo, and a lot of this also depends on whatever's behind the scenes that they're not going to tell us in media reports, but if they all rally behind him, then maybe it's no big deal. However, you got to be very careful about the other men in that room that have sacrificed, hours, days, and their bodies to this, right? To immediately just hand, like I said, like 10 targets back to Romeo. That could end poorly. You really got to know what's going on there to make the right decision.
Yeah, complex situation for sure. It'll be interesting to see how we handle it going forward.
Yep. Well, you alluded to my I know, but I think at this point, I know we got a little bit of a problem in my boy, Devontavian Wicks. I think we do. These drops, man, are just crazy. I mean, I think the stat I saw is he's been targeted 29 times. He has 10 catches.
A third? That's rough, bro.
Yeah, like last year he was 2/3, right? I think it was like 67% catch rate, which that's fine. That's a fine place to be in, right? No problem with that. But if you're only catching a third of the balls thrown to you, and I get some of them haven't been his fault necessarily, but he's not helping Jordan out at all, and he's making easy drops.
And he's taking snaps away from other guys like Romeo when he's back, and even Bo Melton. Like, these are guys that has performed consistently, and maybe we've seen, higher ceilings from Wicks, which is why we keep giving him the ball. Like, at some point, buddy, your floor is lower than either of those guys have consistently been, like, ever.
Completely agree, and it's a little wild because he is just always open. Like, he's that guy. But on the flip side, if we're trying to be positive, right, and I'm going to keep calling him Devontavian Wicks,
because you're going to say the sophomore slump that we've heard, and maybe it's the case, right? But
let me cope a little bit here, my man. Let me have some optimism that he's going to turn this ship around and be a top 2, not 2 wide receiver in the league for a while.
Lucas, they thought that they could steer the Titanic clear of that iceberg too, my guy. Just saying.
Well, did any of those people on board, have they done it before? Because we have. We had Devontae, Mr. Drop Vontae, right? That people wanted to cut.
I mean, Captain Smith was an experienced captain of the Atlantic, Lucas. I'm sure he avoided an iceberg once before in his career, but continue.
I don't know. We don't know, right? Pull up Wikipedia. We can figure this out.
All right, I have my task for the rest of the show.
There you go. But we got a problem, right? So our beautiful wide receiving group that we were so excited for at the beginning of the season, little iffy. Thank God Jaden Reed's awesome.
Yeah, Jaden Reed is wide receiver 1 for sure. Like, all those discussions about the Packers not having a number 1 wide receiver, like, throw that shit out the door. Open your eyes. It's Naperville's own. It's Jaden Reed.
Oh, at this point, and thank you, Naperville's own, represent. But at this point, he's like wide receiver 1, 2, and 3. Like, he's the wide receiving room.
He can be 1 and 2. Tucker can be 3. I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with that. Yeah.
All right. I already shut on Wicks enough, so we can move to offense.
We can move to offense.
Because you mentioned Jaden Reed. I mean, play of the game.
Was that first one? Yeah.
That first, I guess is what
it was stupid.
A deep post, but it's super over to the corner of the end zone. And he throws that, and I was like, oh my God, is this that Brett Favre shit again, Jordan? Like, really, my guy? I don't know how.
The answer was yes, by the way.
Okay, does that not kind of remind you of the play against Detroit where he throws it in an area where there's no business throwing that ball, and somehow it goes through, and you watch it over and over and over and over and over again.
You're just like, how did the ball fall?
Your mind still can't understand it. It does not make sense in the space-time continuum. No way. Triple coverage right through a guide, felt like.
And there's like a still shot of Jaden Reed where he can't see as the ball touches his hands. Like, the guy's got the defender's got his hand like over his head. May have been a little contact early there, by the way.
Maybe a little bit.
But, like, dude can't see the ball. And he makes that catch. Incredible. Also, a lot of people have been talking about, Jordan Love, and he's showing some Brett Favre tendencies and don't show Brett Favre tendencies and all that kind of stuff, right? I feel like we forget that there was a period of time where Brett Favre was the all-time leader in touchdown passes.
Yeah.
Like we say, like, you're pulling a Brett Favre like it's a bad thing. I mean, he especially at one point was arguably top 3 quarterbacks to ever play the game. So having some Brett Favre in you is not necessarily a bad thing. We only use it as a bad thing. Bunch of reasons for that recently, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. If he turns into Brett Favre, we'd have 3 of the top 10 quarterbacks of all time. I'll take it.
The only pushback I'm going to give you on that is that for me and you, right? Like,
Yeah.
the first Packer game I remember watching was when they went to the Rams and got destroyed by like 40 points in the wild card game, where Aeneas Williams had like 2
tough.
pick sixes. That game on. I mean, that last third of Favre's career, pretty ugly at points. I mean, we did have 2008 where he looked wonderful, but there were a lot more of the, oh crap, that's a Favre play with a negative outcome, than oh crap, that's a Favre play, and holy shit, that was a beautiful touchdown, or that was, a hell of a scramble.
I don't agree. Even as he got older, I don't agree.
All right. Well, we can agree to disagree. Your dad would be so proud. Your dad's always like, "Yeah, you guys do your show, and you just sit and agree with each other the whole time." Well, Mr. Mueller, this one's
for you.
Yes, sir.
But I don't agree. Right? I mean, I just don't. Right? We only think of the bad ones, but how about you think of the Raiders game?
I was going to say, I think of that game.
Think of that game, and even after he left us, I understand he wasn't a Packer at that time, but the stuff he pulled off, even after he left us,
bro,
incredible.
There's a blank slate, except for Tracy Porter in the NFC Championship game, which I will never forget. Never forget that until
also,
the day I
Adrian
die.
Peterson fumbled on the 1 yard line, cost him the game, but that's fine.
But Tracy Porter, and then what's the?
And then Bountygate came out right after it. So I mean, I'm gonna cut old man Favre some slack on that game.
What's the Vikings commentator? It's something Allen. And he's like, "You get a 48-yard field goal. This is for the Super Bowl, man." Oh my God, that call! You know what I'm talking about? The Vikings.
I do. But I feel like when moments like that happen, right? Everyone focuses on that and not the reason you got there. How you got there. It wasn't because Sidney Rice was the second coming of Randy Moss, my man.
It was because Percy Harvin was the better version of Randall Cobb, my man.
Yeah, for every third game he played. Anyways, we're way off track for a Packer podcast here. arguing about like 2009, 2010 Vikings games.
That's how we do it, buddy.
Anyways,
I didn't mean it. I wasn't trying to be too negativistic, calling it
no,
Favre
it's not
pass.
just you. I've been hearing a lot of it. I'm like, all right, guys, like if he turns into Favre, we are the luckiest franchise in the history of franchises. We already probably are, and that would just cement it. Like, dude's an incredible quarterback. You don't get plays like that without some risk. It's just what happens.
You should put that on a T-shirt. That's pretty good.
Jordan also will throw the ball between the hash marks, which, as much as I love Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback, the football player, he just refused to do for decades at a time.
The deep in did not exist, which
no. So Romeo,
in very key moments,
like Romeo's entire skill set, just wouldn't matter. Yeah. Anyways,
missing out there, guy.
Yeah. Well, I guess just finish talking about Jordan, right? Like how do you think he looked overall in this game?
I mean, pick wasn't great, but he's obviously just trying to make a play. And I actually heard Andy Herman, I thought, give a decent defense might be strong. But, Jordan's just doing whatever he can to get that ball out of the end zone. So it isn't a safety, because I feel like there's a high percentage of when a team gets a safety, they get the ball punted back to them, and then they go score with the momentum.
Right, and especially like we were just talking about, right? We kicked that field goal on the next drive.
We did, and
we wouldn't have had that opportunity if we kicked the safety. If
True.
we got a safety, I'm not saying it's the right play, but it worked.
Rams missed the extra point, so it was only like a net difference of 3 points. They're 6 and then our 3. Little Uncle Mo showing up too, which was nice. I mean, after a pick 6, you would think that like that's big. That's a really big play. It's honestly my favorite play in football. But Jordan leaves the offense right down the field despite the negative play. The bad throw to Reed, whatever that was. I mean, that was a little bit of a blemish on Love's night, but getting that kick to Narveson was good. So good job from him to respond.
Well, I think they pointed out he went 9 for 9 his next 9 passes.
Yeah, he got hot, man. He got hot. I didn't listen to the whole floor press conference after the game, but I know that he said like this is how Jordan's always been. I mean, think about like from when he was drafted, right? Draft night, with Rodgers obviously not being happy and everything he's had to go through on his journey,
Yep.
what does Jordan do with adversity? He just keeps on trucking, man. Like you'd see him on the sideline, you see him cheering for his boys, or he's even keeled. There's no down. Never seen
Correct.
Jordan live down, not once. Man's as cool as it comes. But like you said, end of the second quarter, into the third quarter, got pretty hot. I thought the offense sputtered a little bit in the fourth, but you also had a few untimely drops, right? We had Dontavian Wicks.
We had a Jaden Reed drop.
I was going to say, had a Jaden Reed drop, which is early, but just didn't seem right.
Yeah, and it was on a third down, too, if I remember correctly.
So overall, if we're going back to our old school grade, I'd say give him a B+.
I'd probably stick at I'd probably go B minus.
Would you also pause before you give more? Would you also say that you felt like mobility-wise, he looked closer to being back to his normal self, which was a good sign?
He had that one scramble with no hesitation, kind of high stepped out of a guy's tackle. Yeah, I thought he definitely looked better mobility-wise, which hopefully helps us keep kind of opening up his offense. Is my hope, anyways. Because look, he's never gonna be a true run threat, right? It's just not him. But his mobility and his athleticism is a super important part of his game. He absolutely has like the Mahomes athleticism, maybe a little more, right?
And that's how Mahomes like lives and makes his money, is that mobility, keeping the play alive, gives guys extra time, give Kelsey 15 more seconds to get lost somehow.
Yep. To make Saints defenders just take completely wrong angles on him literally the entire game. If you watch that Monday Night Football game, oh my God, was it infuriating. Dude will be like a foot away from him and somehow takes the wrong angle and misses him, and there goes Mahomes scampering for a first down. I'm like, well, how? He's right. You can touch him. What are you doing? Anyways.
His superpower is he turns everybody around him into Quay Walker.
Yes, and I got some words on that, but we'll get there. Yeah, overall, pretty decent game by Jordan. It looked better than the previous week. Did not look as good as the second half of last week, if that makes sense. But let's talk about some running backs, shall we? Little Josh Jacobs. Stat line didn't look great. 19 carries, 73 yards, 3.8 average, but I thought he looked better than that in the eye test wise anyways. What do you think?
Yeah, I liked his first quarter touchdown. The little bounce back around, had to go around the long way, right?
He did.
To start at the top of the screen, come down to the bottom. Yeah, numbers weren't great. I also felt like the run blocking wasn't phenomenal.
No.
Rams do have a nice front. They've replaced Aaron Donald well with Kobe Turner and then Braden Fisk. They also have Jared Verse, too.
They're FSU boys in Verse and Fisk. They're both pretty good.
Indeed, they do. And, I mean, you knew that McVay was going to have his boys ready to play. Not only is it this, I guess, more of a rivalry for him, right, because he's gotten smoked every single time, but also the Rams are 1-3, right?
They're 1-4 now, yeah.
They're 1-3. I mean, this is a team that was able to rally last year and get their way to the playoffs. And it doesn't matter what pieces they have left on offense. Like, that team is going to fight their ass off for McVay and for Matt Stafford. And you saw it on both sides of the line of scrimmage, especially in the trenches. So I give a shout out to the Rams defensive line. I would still expect our boys in the front five to be making more holes for Jacobs. So Emmanuel Wilson didn't do a whole lot either. 6 for 24. Couldn't really see much pop. So a little bit of a stock down game for the running game, but that's how it's going to go some days.
And we're saying that, right? But if you think back to Packer teams past, could you imagine how silly it would sound to us, how kind of like down we are in the running game when we still rush for 126 yards?
Yeah, we're being spoiled brats right now. That's fair to say.
We really are at over 4 yards of carry. So like the long was only 13 the entire day on the ground. So that's definitely missing some big play opportunities there. But overall, they did enough, I think. And I think Jacobs looked good. He looked shifty. He was making a lot of people miss. Hopefully we can clean up some of that run blocking and make his job a little easier.
Yeah, for sure. Thoughts of the receiving room?
I mean, we've talked about like every single person so far, except for Bo Melton's one catch for 12 yards.
Malik Heath looked fine on his 2 for 14.
And he played a lot. He played like 3/4 of the snaps on offense, which is interesting. Even with everything going on, I didn't really expect that much run from Malik Heath. But he didn't do anything bad. Made a couple catches. Had some nice blocks. Did what you ask of him. Jaden Reed, phenomenal, right? Like, look, he's just
Naperville's own.
He's that
Enough
guy.
Said. He's that guy.
He's fifth in the league in receiving yards, and 2 of those games were with Malik Willis. So, like, I mean, dude's a stud at this point, right? He leads the league in like every single slot receiver category. If you just kind of denote them by slot receiver, like he has arrived.
But that almost feels like a disservice to what and who he is as
Completely
a receiver.
agree. Completely agree. Because he can do everything. He had another 19 yards rushing, right, this week, and he can do a little bit of everything in the pass game. And he's a threat at every level of the defense, which I think is a unique proposition, especially for a guy his size. You wouldn't necessarily expect that, which I know is something we talk about every week, but it's because he's so darn good and brings a skill set that you wouldn't necessarily expect. And this was just another example in a long line of examples of why Jaden Reed, Naperville's own, is awesome.
Lucas, quickly, just when I say slot receiver, give me some of the names that pop in your head.
Slot receiver. Well, thanks to my fantasy team, Josh Downs.
Okay.
I know that's
Keep
what
going.
you're looking for. Are you talking historical or current?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking like Edelman, right?
Yeah. All of the Patriots ones. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm thinking like that prototype and wonderful. Get some yak on those little short drags, little outs, little zigs, little slants. But these are all, like you said, routes within, 10-ish yards of the line of scrimmage.
Wes Wilker wasn't burning you 50 yards down the field.
I was going to say, I cannot imagine in my memory bank, which Lord knows how much old football I watch, I cannot imagine remembering seeing a play from Edelman or Welker or any of those prototypical slot receivers. Amendola, when they're making a freaking 60-yard post in triple coverage.
Yeah, they're not doing
Look easy. Or when we were coming back against the Vikings, like the back shoulder fade in the slot, seam route, again, 30 yards downfield. And it's the way that Jordan throws him the ball, it's like he's throwing to Calvin Johnson or Andre Johnson, like one of these freak 6'4", 6'5" receivers, just oh shit, I'm pressured, just throw it up and hopefully he gets it.
And then
who
he
do I
gets
throw
it.
to in that spot? Jaden Reed. That's who you throw it to every time.
It should be Christian Watson or Romeo, right, in theory, but it's Jaden Reed, which is wild to think about. I'm just really excited to see what he does when this offense actually starts to cook, because we're not there yet, right? We haven't all come together. We saw it, I guess, the second half of last week. We saw it for a quarter this week. Once they actually start getting going, I'm really interested to see kind of specifically what does Reed do, right? Because he's already playing so well. When other people are stepping up, or when he's even more open, what does that actually look like? Super interested.
Thank you for saying that. By the way, talking when the offense gets going fully, I saw Andy Herman say the Packers back on a little YouTube short today, and I was like, we're not though. This still feels like a lot of first half of last season before we got everything,
Thankfully, not as bad.
As bad, but before we got all the wheels turning in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. Completely agree.
We're not the only team that happens to, right? The Chiefs kind of look like shit right now, and usually do until October, November.
Yep.
So let's give it some time. And while there were beautiful moments from this game, obviously we won, right? You got to feel good about that. Getting another one in the W
That's all that matters. When we're talking in December about playoff seeding, no one's going to care or remember that we won by 5 against the Rams. Doesn't matter.
Fair. And I understand that. It does not make that win more significant if it's by 20 or by 5 in the stat column. But while we had good moments in this game, we are still not playing Packer football. Not to the level of what this team is with the talent that we have. And that's me saying that with, on the defensive side of the ball, guys balling out way harder than I thought some of them would.
Completely agree, and we'll get to the defense in just a second. Just want to give a little shout out to good old Ben Sims. Got a little run because Luke Musgrave was active but didn't get a single snap on offense. Interesting. So we got a little Benny Sims, and then I believe Devin's about to bring up another player that he remembers seeing. Good old 47.
Good old 47, folks. Andrew Beck, former Dolphin, former Bronco. He is the most direct comparison player to one of our own former finest players. Number 81, but number one in your hearts, Josiah DeGuara. Same thing.
Don't let me in with you on this one.
This is the same thing.
Don't let me in
Tell
with
me they're
you
similar.
on your Josiah love.
H-back, fullback, tight end, but you're kind of undersized. They're the same.
You're absolutely right. They are the exact same player because without you texting me, oh my God, Beckson, I'm not sure I would have noticed him on the field. Just like I most of the time didn't notice that Josiah was on the field because he didn't do anything.
You asked Detroit if Josiah did something, Lucas. You asked Detroit. You asked the fans in Motown. They'll tell you.
They have no idea who he is. But no, it was cool to see him as kind of a fullback, H-back situation. Clearly that's partially because, well, Tucker can't play every snap, and he got hurt again a little bit this week. But I
think he was only in to block. Like I don't think they gave him.
He was in for like
a
2
pass
plays,
a route to go out for, or nothing. No, it was simple. 12 personnel. We need another blocker. There you go, Mr. Josiah, whatever you are. Go.
Yeah, that's 100% what it was. Which hey, whatever. Good for him. Good for him.
It was something fun, a little exotic, you know.
Exotic, having a fullback, crazy.
I mean, having one back, yeah, bro. After Josiah was gone, I was like, well, shit, there goes that train because Henry Pearson's never actually active.
Which is unfortunate.
Lucas, you were a fullback. You were fullback. I should not be the one getting more excited for fullbacks.
I'm excited for fullbacks when they actually get to have the ball, and we don't believe in that, or Josiah was too bad for us to believe in that. So either way, moving on.
Why are you so grumpy, bro? It's a Tuesday.
I just don't like Josiah. Anyways, moving on. Let's talk about defense, shall we? We got some highs, we got some lows.
Why the hell can Quay Walker not tackle anyone in the hole? Why? Why?
How does he miss people while they're both in the hole? That is 100% the question.
On all of Kyron Williams' big runs, if I can talk. I watched the highlight, and you feel like you see Kyron approach the hole, and then you see someone in green and yellow approach the hole at the exact same time.
So far, so good, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're thinking.
Like, okay, this is going to be like maybe a tackle for loss, or maybe just, the guy falls forward. It's a 1-yard game, and all of a sudden, the Ram shoots through that hole and keeps running, and the Packer player's on the ground, and you're like, oh, maybe he got trucked. No. Quay Walker just missed his tackle attempt. Like, was there a juke there? Was there a shimmy? Not one that should have done that. Not at all, folks. No chance.
No, you talk about wide receivers and maybe running backs in their agility, right? Their ability to move.
There's nowhere for him to go.
Hold on. You talk about can you make someone miss in a phone booth, right? Quay somehow can miss people in phone booths all the time. He'll be standing directly in front of them and just completely whiff, just miss them, which is really part of the struggle I have with Quay, because I feel like we're seeing him meet people in the hole more frequently this year. He's just somehow not tackling them, and I don't get it.
And he's a velociraptor. He's like 6'4". He is all muscle,
fast, strong.
It's just like when he gets to the point of contact, he just whiffs. I can't explain it.
It's very odd, very disappointing. We did some interesting things with snap counts this week. Ooh. One of the interesting things was with what I think a lot of people believe is our great hope at the linebacker position.
Edgerrin Cooper. He had a sack, bro.
30 snaps, man.
Yep, he flashed.
He has every week. The dude is just different out there, right? Just absolutely different. And I think this upcoming week may be the week we see him. Right? I think it may be the week he takes over for McDuffie. Bring McDuffie in on rundowns when you're going to play three linebackers. That's fine, right? Eric Wilson, you had like your game and a half. It was phenomenal. We will always love you for it. Get out the way. We need more Coop, because especially when he comes in on some of those A-gap, B-gap stunts that they do, dude is a rocket. And just the offensive line cannot pick him up fast enough. Next thing you know, in the quarterback's face. Part of why he got a sack. I believe he got another pressure on another blitz.
He did.
The things we can do with him and Quay, because I believe that both of them are strong blitzers up the middle. You can do so much more with those two than you can with McDuffie. Like, McDuffie's not scaring anybody on a double A-gap blitz.
He's just not fast enough, doesn't have that type of explosiveness.
He's not going to get there, right? where Cooper can get around the people, right? So I'm really curious what we're going to do going forward with him. He deserves more playing time. He's playing really well, it looks like. I get that it's small sample sizes, and you never really know when you expand someone's role, right? Are you gonna lose some of that effectiveness, right? Are they gonna get exposed? More film on them, whatever. Put them in situations that aren't necessarily as advantageous to their skill set. I don't care at this point. We need to see the dude on the field.
Yeah, man, for sure. I mean, I would say it's not a hot take. Devin Cooper has been our best linebacker so far this season.
I agree. Speaking of not hot takes, defensive line. Once again, what are you doing?
Well, Carl Brooks did something. Second half for him.
He was really the one. That's why I believe I texted you and JP, like, why is TJ Sladen our best pass rusher right now? Because he got a couple pressures. Like, why?
I don't know where Rashawn Gary and Kenny Clark are. I don't know who's been impersonating them. But identity fraud is a serious crime that affects millions of Americans every year.
Because, look, Kenny had that pressure right up the middle, but no one blocked him. It still counts, but, like, you didn't beat anybody.
Meh.
And then I feel like Rashawn, this was a better game from Rashawn. I really feel like he helped collapse the pocket a little more consistently. Part of the problem is dude was getting just absolutely choked out by the right tackle on a couple plays, where dude's arm is just wrapped around his neck. Whatever, right? That happens. You hope you get the call. You frequently don't get the call. But at some point, we're now at 12 games. And the last 12 games, Rashawn Gary has 1 sack. Like, dude, you got to something. By now, you should have lucked into one, right? Something should have happened. I mean, it could be one of those where the quarterback just drops the snap and you're the closest person to him. Whatever. Like, you're not putting yourself in position to succeed. There was some interesting stats that people have been talking about with regards to Rashawn Gary and his get off at the snap of the ball. I don't know if you saw any of that or heard any of that.
Fill me in.
So he is the slowest person on our defensive line getting off the ball. He's about a tenth of a second slower than he was last year or for his entire career. And it should be the opposite, right? Like, when you run a 40-yard dash, you do it with your hand on the ground because you can get off faster. You don't do it standing up, right? So a defensive end, it's a linebacker out of three-point stance, should be faster out of the gates than a stand-up outside linebacker. Especially because at that point, when you're D-end, you're not reading anything really like you would be as an outside backer. Like, where did it go? Where did that burst off the edge? I encourage everybody this week, and hopefully this is the week that he fixes it. But everybody this week, when we play the Cardinals, watch the offensive and defensive line when Rashawn Gary's on the field. You'll see he's the last person to move every single play. And that's just putting you in a bad position, right? He's never been someone that's had a ton of pass rush moves. But if you're not even using your explosion and your athleticism to try to get around the offensive tackle or get up on them before they're in their stance, you're letting them get in their stance before you're even there because you're so slow off the ball. Like, he's not lazy. He didn't just all of a sudden lose all of his athleticism. Like,
He is the definition of motor, man.
I don't understand. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting point about with the new stance. He's getting off significantly slower. You know, before you made that point, I was thinking to myself, like, other than Preston and Za'Darius' rookie year, like, is this the best surrounding pass rush that he's had? And I think about that, but I'm also like try to come to grips with like who we think these people are, and maybe have to wonder who they actually are.
Yeah, because I think what we're missing right now, and Enikbari is the only one that's close, is I think we're missing an actual pass rusher, right? We have a bunch of freaks out there, right? Preston's just so lanky and long and whatever, right? But we don't really have like a finesse pass rusher that's going to beat you with moves, who's going to dip around the edge, get under that offensive tackle's hands, and get to the quarterback, right? We don't have that guy.
No, Nessie and Gray are just straight power, but
yeah,
they're not like...
We got nothing but bull rushers, really. I mean, not even... Yeah, that's all we got. So has that become an issue? I don't know. Why don't we do some stuff like we did with Za'Darius? I really expected this I heard him talk about it on Pack a Day, but kind of dawned on me. I was like, yeah, we haven't seen it. Like, why are we not using him like we did Za'Darius? I get Halfley, different coordinator, right? But Za'Darius was everywhere, right? You put him wherever the weak lineman was, at least occasionally. He'd be up over the center, guard, tackle, whatever it took to get him a good look. I think we're probably being a little reluctant to do anything interesting with Gary. We're running stunts and stuff, but like let's put him over a guard and see what happens. Do something.
Yeah, especially third and long. Like, get some NASCAR packages, get some penny fronts. Like, just mix it up a little bit. I mean, we did see a little bit against the Titans when we had like those three guys all shifted down.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about? And they sent Edgerrin Cooper on a late blitz, and he got home. I don't know how exotic Halfley is going to be. It's like we talked about before. In his introductory press conference, he kept it very real, and he was like, what we do, we don't disguise. This is what we're going to run. This is how we're going to play coverage. We're going to be fast. We're going to be physical. We're going to be aggressive. But, like, you might know what we're doing. But, like, can you get around it, basically? You know what I mean? So the Legion of Boom, all they did was run cover 3, but they were really, really good at it.
Really good at it. And, hey,
we're getting better on the back end, but we need some pass rush to step up because, I mean, if you're giving guys all day, like, they will find holes. And despite a really depleted Rams receiving core, like, this was still a game. Stafford still threw for over 200 yards and was still able to move the ball with the apparently not Caucasian Jordan Whittington. He looked pretty good, too, not going to lie.
No, he's good. I picked him up in fantasy in a couple leagues because I was like, this dude could be the dude for them.
A little shifty.
Yeah, rookie 6th-round pick out of Texas, got some size to him, unlike Tutu Atwell. And he's got a little bit more oomph than Demarcus Robinson, so I figured he long term may have a little upside. But yeah, I don't know what we're doing on the D line. Like you said, Brooks looked pretty good. Wooden looked fine out there. No Wyatt, which was a bummer. Kenny didn't really do a ton. TJ Slane had a couple nice pressures up the middle. That was weird. It's not really his job. Nessie played the second most snaps at D end over Preston and Enikbari.
Did he,
which was interesting,
play though?
That's
I
the
could look
tough
at the
part,
stat
right?
sheet. I could tell you at 3 tackles, but like, if I'm thinking of this game defensively, Lucas Van Ness doesn't pop up once.
And this was against a very bad offensive line. That's the disheartening thing, right? We don't have the excuses we had when we went up against like the Vikings tackles, which are pretty good, or the Eagles tackles, which are really good, right? And there's a couple plays that I just watched Nessie and love the dude, right? But Barrington's own. But he just ran into the tackle. And the tackle was already set in the stance, just anchor down. Neither person went anywhere, right?
Yeah.
Nessie's got to figure that out. He's got to be able to then do something about it, right? Or have a more of a plan that just runs straight into the dude's chest, because that's not going to work every time. And when it doesn't, what do you do? What's your counter? What's your backup? It feels like pretty much all the guys need to figure that out, because it's not working. In long term, we're about to talk about the secondary and turnovers and stuff, but long term, turnovers are pretty fickle when you're not getting a pass rush to force them, right?
Yeah, you cannot count on that. And we've seen, 2013, 2014 Packers who had a whole bunch of studs in the secondary, and we'd get interceptions galore, but we're like 32nd in points, or yards total. But like, that catches up with you.
Yeah.
And also, people drop passes. Like, everyone except for Xavier will drop passes. That will happen.
Well,
We've seen it already.
He dropped one. Even
and McDuffie did too. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And he's trying to drop pick 6 too. How many drop picks we have this season? It's like week 5. My God.
Can you imagine how many picks we would have? Crazy. Well, let's just go to the secondary, because they're less depressing. I mean, some not good stuff, but overall, much better. Some more interesting stuff safety wise. We'll get to X obviously, but can you guess? And maybe you already know, so let me know if you know this. But what percentage of snaps did Evan Williams play?
I'm going to say north of 30.
Okay, throw out a number, man.
37.
100.
I'm sorry, what?
He played every snap on defense.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, like I don't really know why. And look, I know why. I know why they did it, but He went from like not playing at all to playing sparingly to like, nope, you're just safety. Have fun. We did a lot of big nickel. Clearly, we weren't really afraid of their slot receivers. Nixon played outside. Like,
yeah, I was gonna say, like, I feel like we brought him or Bullard down, and then we kicked Nixon outside. Then I think it was mainly
Bullard,
CV. Like, I didn't see
Bullard played the slot a lot. But yeah, so I thought that was weird. That was really weird. But hey, he got picked on a little bit. But at the end of the game, he did what he needed to do.
Well, he did it twice, Luke. In the first half, too, the Rams went for a 4th and goal, and they went to him in the slot on a slant, and he said no both times.
Correct. So, I mean, I like what I'm seeing out of him. I like that we're getting him involved. I don't know if I love that it's at the expense of Bullard, but, you know.
Well, like you said, wait, time out, Lucas. Like you said, we won a lot of big nickel. I felt like I saw him, X, and Bullard on the field significantly.
Yeah. Bullard still played like 2/3, 3/4 of the game.
Yeah.
So we got all of the safeties out there, essentially, which was cool because I think that's really a strength of this team, which is wild to think about if you just go back, listen to some of our episodes pre-draft, right? It wasn't just a whole lot of nothing out there, right? We got nobody back there, and now all of a sudden we're like, yeah, just more safeties. Just put all the safeties on the field, as many as you can find. We'll take them because they're all good.
Outside of drafting like a Hall of Fame level quarterback, it's hard to imagine switching one position group so significantly in one off season.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. So Evan Williams played well. Javon Bullard made a couple nice plays. He did get beat, but then Stafford overthrew. I think it was 2-2, kind of out of the slot there.
Yeah,
on a corner route. But overall played pretty well. Do you want to talk about your boy X?
I mean,
2 turnovers.
Guys, I kind of was
Should've
kidding
been 3.
when I said it, but now it's 5 games, 5 picks, should be 6. Of course, when we unfortunately bear, but I gotta say it. Peanut punch, Kajani Barry peanut punches out of Kyron Williams. Like 3 Packers dive on it, and then guess who swoops in out of nowhere? Of course, it's X. It's Xavier.
Of course. He's the kind of guy, and it's obvious already, that when the ball is on the ground or in the air, he's just there. He's just the guy that's right there every time.
I don't know if you caught this tidbit. He said in the locker room afterwards that he is offended when people throw it over the deep middle. He takes personal offense if you try to throw a deep middle.
I love that.
And except for the one against the Vikings, which I know you said was out of bounds, all of them have been over the deep middle. And you know that we play, wait, I can do this. Middle closed defense with our cover
Correct.
1 scheme, not middle open. That's cover 2.
Correct.
Or 2-man. There we go.
Or cover 4, yeah.
Like that's where help is going to be. That's where Xavier is going to be.
Correct.
How can you be so stupid?
Well, you can't just not throw over the middle unless you're Aaron Rodgers and live to tell about it. That's why they keep doing it.
Okay, but nobody has lived to tell about every single quarterback he's picked off.
Correct.
So maybe start throwing some more out routes out to your running backs. I'm just saying, guys, so far it's not a recipe for success to throw in the middle when number 29's back there.
Hey, I don't know what you're talking about. Keep doing it, guys. Keep doing it. He's going to need a couple games with multiple picks if he's going to average 17, One of these guys isn't going to throw it over the middle, so he's going to have to make him up. I really thought this could have been the week. He could have had 6 and 5 games, give himself a game buffer. That would have been nice. But yeah, what a true ball hawk. Absolutely true ball hawk. Reminds me a lot of Nick Collins out there. And it's so nice to have competent safety play. Also, looking right here, Evan Williams led the team in tackles. So
He feisty.
Yeah, I'm not sure I love my safety leading the team tackles, but a lot of those are probably Kyron Williams 10-yard runs up the gut. But
also a lot of big nickel. He was in the slot as well, so it's not like he was playing traditional like deep half safety.
No, so
a little grain of salt, right?
I probably prefer my backers to lead the team tackles, but that's okay. Yeah, corner stuff. So we had Nixon play outside, which is always an adventure, I would say.
That's a nice word for it.
It wasn't too awful. Stokes looks not great still. We need more CV.
I don't know if he was still a little banged up. What were the snaps like?
I don't have the information for that in front of me, but Like Stokes has got to kind of go to the bench, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
Obviously, once Jair's back, clearly. Like, got to do what you got to do when he's out. But when he's back, it's got to be Jair and CV.
It's also rough that when we're experimenting with putting our safeties in the slot, like that you would still prefer to have Nixon out there at outside corner as opposed to Eric Stokes. Like that's a real, this is where we're at, buddy.
That's not great.
Because Nixon just looks lost out there with leverage. Like it's just not the move at all. And that's another reason I can't wait until Jair's back to never see Keyshawn Nixon out wide ever again.
And Stokes is a lot like, for all you car guys out there, like a Dodge Challenger. Okay?
It's got 4 wheels and it has a steering wheel, Lucas. Like
he's like a Dodge Challenger. So what I mean by that is if you run straight, Eric Stokes can be right there, man. He is very good at running straight. Very good. He'll be in your hip pocket, perfect position if you run a go route, right? It's when you turn that he gets into trouble. He's not made for turning. It's not his strong suit. Not his strong suit.
Do you think that maybe offenses maybe know that? What do you think?
Yeah, I think at this point they for sure do. Yeah. If I'm playing against Eric Stokes, anytime I sense man coverage, I'm doing nothing but deep ends, I think. He's going to be open every play.
Absolutely. And even if he's near the point of contention, like he is not strong-armed enough.
No, and he doesn't
pass breaks up.
He doesn't have good ball skills. Never has. Even when he was really good his rookie year, he didn't really pick the ball off because he didn't know where it was most of the time. He was just in good position.
I remember his rookie year saying how many interceptions he should have had. I mean, he had a hell of a season, but just could never make a play on the ball when the opportunity was given to him.
Correct. Unfortunately, that did not get better. And if anything, his turning probably got worse. So definitely give me CV, give me Jair when he's healthy. They both seem to have a little bit more dog in them, despite, obviously, Stokes being a bulldog. He seems to be lacking that a little bit.
Lucas, can we pause for a moment
Sure.
and turn the clock back to last year?
Okay.
I think it was on a Panthers podcast. You did that one by yourself.
Oh, boy.
And I think you were still defending Eric Stokes. I think you were still saying that you think he can come back and do something. And I was like, nah, buddy, he's cooked. He's cooked. I've been saying that for a while now. Are you now comfortable to say at this point, October 8th, 2024, that Eric Stokes is a bust?
Oof. That's hard.
First round pick, right?
First round pick. I have a hard time saying he's a bust because I do think his career trajectory would have been different without the injury. I know he wasn't playing great at the beginning of his sophomore year, but it's the beginning of your sophomore year. That's pretty common, especially once you have tape out there in the world. So I really do think that robbed him of a lot of growth. And he does seem to still have the wheels. Like he doesn't really seem to have lost that top end. But I do wonder what he could have been like, what his trajectory could have been. Where could he have made ground up during off seasons and stuff if he wasn't too busy rehabbing? I don't like calling people busts due to injury, and I think that's part of what's coming into play here. Now, as cornerback 3, like that's not terrible. Go across the league, he's probably about average for that. Like he's not a terrible football player. He belongs on a roster. So I don't know if I'd call him a bust, but it's definitely been disappointing.
Fair. I think that you would expect the level of play of your third corner, if he's a first-round pick, to be much higher. Especially when you're just, again, it's all the investment in capital, and he feels like at moments when this defense underperforms, right, especially last year, you go back and you pause and you look at, like, all the money that we put in and the high draft capital, and you're like, okay, so, like, all this money and these picks, you know, where are we falling short? Where are we not getting the ROI? And I think that, like, Eric Stokes and Quay Walker are two of the biggest ones. And at least for Stokes, like you said, there was injury that did derail some of his progress.
I mean, he was out for like a year and a half. I mean,
I feel. Just I still think that he deserves that capital B word, and hopefully he proves me wrong. That'd be great. But I'm not
maybe I'd go lowercase B word. I don't know if I'm ready to go capital B yet.
We'll see. I hope you're right.
Like Kevin King, capital B. Stokes right now, I think lowercase b.
Do you want to end the show right now?
Yeah, I don't know why you love all these terrible players. Let's talk about the Arizona Cardinals, shall we?
Kevin King was wonderful. You should be happy that he went to Atlanta, not Arizona, sir.
Don't care. Arizona Cardinals. All right. Upcoming game. 12 o'clock kickoff. Wonderful.
Yo, how'd they beat San Fran? Like, what the hell's going on there?
San Fran's 2-3. So I don't know.
Brock Purdy showing like he's human? Like,
Well, Brandon Ayuk didn't show up for half the season so far. He was good this last week, so I don't know. Kyler's been good with his little toddler scrambling around, but dude's got wheels.
James Conner, the Terminator, but not. He's been decent too.
He's been good. Marvin Harrison Jr. hasn't really done much. They don't really throw him the ball a lot, which is kind of weird.
A little streaky, it seems like. A couple weeks ago, like 6
I mean,
catches, but this week he had like 3.
He's averaging like every 4th catch is a touchdown, which is like crazy, but they just don't throw him the ball a lot.
Trey McBride,
Phenomenal tight end.
Colorado State wanted him out of the draft.
Phenomenal tight end. Yeah, this is going to be an interesting team, and I think part of it is Kyler's going to be a problem, man. Kyler's going to be an issue. He housed like a 50-yard run, I think, this last week. He just scampers. Like I don't know how he's so fast. Those little legs just go. Brrr, they just run so fast.
This needs to be a game where Edgerrin Cooper has a high percentage of the snaps, and he needs to be the one spying because with Quay Walker missing people in gaps, can you imagine him trying to tackle Kyler Murray? Like, it's a comedy reel.
Yeah, that'd be an issue. In theory, Quay can do it, but in reality, yeah, you're right. You're right.
You know, because this is gonna be stupid to say, but like if Kyler Murray was the size of Cam Newton and was that fast, I would believe in Quay Walker. But when he's that shifty and that nimble, like no chance. Absolutely, he'll be cooked.
Yeah, absolutely no chance that works out well for him at all.
Or even like Keyshawn, screw it, let him spy. Like I've seen him do that too.
Yeah, he's done that before, out of the slot. I'd be fine with it. We just got to get creative and that secondary's got to be locked down because Kyler's going to extend plays. He's going to be just scrambling around back there forever, it seems, and try to find someone down the field. So you really got to be able to lock onto your guy, or the pass rush has to show up and not allow Kyler to get out, right? Make him throw the ball away. Make him not just dance back there.
Which we did do a decent job of against the Eagles. Like you corrected me on the game plan. We'll see. Kyler's shifty. I'm hoping that Jair is back to lock up Marvin Harrison Jr. That would be a beautiful matchup.
That would be. Of all matchups, this actually wouldn't be a bad one for Stokes, I think. Marvin Harrison.
Micah Wilson on Harrison.
Harrison. Not that I want it to happen, but like they really underutilize Marvin Harrison's route running. So I don't know how much they would actually use him in ways Stokes couldn't handle. If that makes sense.
Let's hope they don't listen to the show because now they have the game plan. Just deep ends.
There you go. Well, if they start running a ton of deep ends, we know that we got an insider we got to watch out for.
Oh, shit.
I'm trying to look through their depth chart, see if there's anybody else.
Whoa. They got a very important player on their defense. You should know right away.
Chris Barnes.
Chris fucking Barnes.
He doesn't start, but yeah.
He'll be on the field, dude. I feel like he's led that team in tackles for the past couple of seasons.
He'll probably be on the field. He's backing up because of your White. They got Budda Baker still.
Do they still have Chris Banjo back there somewhere, like the sixth-string safety?
No, they don't.
Sad.
No, they
Budda
don't.
Baker's still there. What is it? Thompson, their free safety. He's pretty good.
Jalen Thompson, yep.
Yep.
They got Zaven Collins, Bilal Nichols.
Max Melton, Bo's brother. Ooh, that could be spicy.
They do have Little Melton. He back up, but yeah, they got Little Melton. So Little Melton on Melton action if we get the backups in.
But he's a slot, isn't he?
Coming out, I don't know how they use him, but coming out, he could play either. He was kind of that like 5'11", could kind of do both thing coming out of Maryland.
Okay, I hope it happens at least once. I really do.
Yeah, me too. Little Melton on Melton action. Yeah, that'd be fun.
I'm here for it. All right.
Prediction?
Game predictions. Whew. It's in Lambeau, right?
Yes.
Okay. 31-21 pack.
31-21. What about obscure predictions that we will forget about and never talk about again?
We've done an okay job of bringing them up. Not great, but okay. Hey, we've been much more consistent getting our show done every week than we have with the predictions, and I'm okay with that. That's a much more important statistic.
Me too.
Emmanuel Wilson has 2 catches.
Oh, okay. Mine's going to be a little sad. Okay. I think this is the week that X's streak ends, but Javon Bullard starts. Devin's just staring at me, very unhappy right now.
Lucas, we criticize guys who are somehow bigger than we are, like the actual NFL players, for misusing their platform.
Unless your name's Kyler Murray.
Lucas, I don't even know what the reference you're making because I'm too mind-fucked right now.
He's tiny.
Oh, little person joke, I see you. If his streak ends, call JP. You're doing the show with him. I'm going to personally blame you for that. And while he's making it very much his own, what jersey does Xavier wear? That's right.
20.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. 29. I'm cutting you off. 29. You're right. AKA Razul God. AKA the OG ball hawk. Sir.
I'm going to go offense gets it rolling. Let's do a little 34-28. Think we struggle a little bit. Containing Kyler.
Narveson kicks one over 50 yards.
Ooh, does he make it?
He does, and I'm on call, so I'm at work, and I freak the fuck out. I tell my patient, oh, nothing happened. Sorry, nothing. I'm good.
I'm going to do one more final prediction. Keyshawn Nixon actually gets to return a kickoff. Yeah, I know. That's bold. That's
real bold. That's spicy, my guy. I like it.
Yeah, I'm here for it.
All righty, buddy. Well, my friends, until next time.
Go Pack, go.
Go Pack, go.